Good Friday to you and your loved ones. I hope you're having a lovely holiday. My name is Sarah Otieno and we are live on This Is The Day. Live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio where the music does the talking. You can join our discussion today through the WhatsApp number 0786 316 316, SMS line 20316, and let us get talking on Facebook and Twitter. We are at Family Radio 316. Today, 5 more cases tested positive of the COVID-19 virus, and that brings the total number of positive cases in our country to 189. This is a result of 504 cases that were tested today and in the last 24 hours. And out of these 5, all of them are Kenyans, and we had 3 cases from Mombasa. From Nairobi we had 1 case, and we also had 1 case from Nyandarua County. And out of all that, we had the age brackets of 27 to 58 years old, and we had 2 males and 3 females. And this is what the Health CS Mutahi Kagwe had to say when he was releasing this briefing for today.
We have continued to test and managed to test some 504 samples. Out of this number, some 5 have tested positive for the coronavirus disease. Therefore, we now have 189 Kenyans with confirmed positive, confirmed as positive. These 5 people are all Kenyan nationals, and only 1 of them has a history of travel from the UAE. 3 of the cases are in Mombasa, while Nairobi and Nyandarua have 1 each. 1 case came from mandatory quarantine facilities, while the others were picked by our surveillance teams. The 5 are aged between the ages of 27 and 58 years old. 2 are male, while 3 are female. But I'm also glad to note that today, an additional 10 individuals will be discharged from our Bagathi COVID-19 isolation facility. And this is good news indeed. It is a Good Friday. For the first time in a day, we release more people than we took in.
Well, for the first time since we started reporting these cases, more people have recovered from COVID-19 virus than the people that are being taken in and the positive cases. A comparison of 10 and 5, a ratio of 1 to 2, that is a good number, and brings the total of recovered people to 22. That is good news for the people of Kenya. But the CS also pointed out that a lot of Kenyans are still battling with the issue of using hard cash, physical money. And he said these monies can be a channel of transmitting COVID-19 virus from one person to another. But Kenyans are still using physical money despite the regulations and the measures that the people and the mobile banking applications took in place to even reduce the charges that are used when transferring your money online. Kenyans are still using hard cash, and that is a big challenge. He also pointed out on the issue of disposing of our masks. We are wearing masks. Where are we throwing them after using them? Are we even disposing them off? Are we doing it in the correct way? He said the Ministry of Health and also the Ministry of Environment is working together to come up with a protocol way of how these masks will be disposed of correctly. And he called on everyone to make sure that they dispose their masks in the correct way. Listen up.
Today, I want to remind you of the dangers posed by handling of physical money in business transactions. In my earlier briefs, I encouraged you to transact electronically, minimizing handling of cash. Despite mobile money operators facilitating the ease of doing e-transactions, we have noted with concern that people continue to disregard this advice. Once again, I am asking you to take all the measures that you can to avoid exchanging notes and coins. physical money presents surfaces that can very easily be contaminated with the virus. Avoid it. This is for your own good and for the good of the country. We also note that there will be a challenge in disposing of face masks. The Ministry of Health, together with the Ministry of Environment and other government agencies, have developed and circulated a protocol on COVID-19 waste management to the county governments for operationalization. In the meantime, all of us are advised to properly dispose of face masks to avoid contamination in line with that protocol.
Well, considering that contaminated face masks can also be a channel of transmitting this virus from one person to another, it is only advisable that we dispose of our masks properly and according to the protocols that will be given by the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Environment. But for now, just make sure you dispose of your mask correctly and in the right way. The health CS also said that they are continuing with the training of medical officers and doctors, and he said over 1,000 health practitioners and over 4,000 doctors are being trained right now to make sure that they can handle cases of COVID-19 in the right way. And apart from that, there is also the hiring of 5,000 health workers in the country, and that will be done through the county service board. And he said that anyone who is doing some applications for that should direct it to the CSB. And apart from that, there is some good news for our hospitals, and especially the county level hospitals. For a long time, they have been battling with the issue of electricity. And right now, the Ministry of Health, the government is working with the KPLC to make sure that they fasten electricity connectivity in all the hospitals in the counties, with only one aim: to make sure that these hospitals are connected and all the medical equipments that lay still because of lack of electricity are brought to life and they can be used, including the ventilators that are needed so much during this time of COVID-19. This is what the CS had to say about that.
We continue to enhance our capacity and capability within our health facilities to combat this disease. To date, over 100,000 healthcare workers have been given COVID-19 related training. Over 4,000 doctors across the country have benefited from an e-based training on the same. We are enhancing testing and other capabilities. We are now able to undertake an average of 600 tests a day. Kenya Power and Lighting Company will fast-track the connectivity of three-phase power to our various county facilities so that they can fully utilize medical equipment to effectively manage COVID-19 patients. What that means, in effect, is that we will be able to utilize the facilities, for example, respirators that we can use as ventilators in just about all our hospitals in the county governments where this equipment had been taken to, and multiplying our capacity in an instant. I want also to clarify that the hiring of the 5,000 health workers I announced earlier in the week will be done by the county service boards. I am aware that there was an advertisement by the Public Service Board to the effect that people should apply to the Public Service Board. We have consulted with the Public Service Board and agreed that this hiring of the 5,000 health workers had been agreed with the Council of Governors, that this activity will take place, but it will be conducted by the county service boards. So that will be corrected. But in the meantime, I am asking all those wishing to apply to direct their applications to the county service boards.
So all the hiring and all the applications should be directed to the county hiring board and not previously as it was directed. And remember, the WhatsApp number that you can use to contact us from is 0786 316316. On WhatsApp, SMS line 20316. And someone is telling me, indeed, it is good news that we are recording a ratio of 1:2. God is our healer. Yes, that is Jen wa kutoka Naivasha. Thank you so much for tuning in today and for being a very fast timer to text in today. We really bless the Lord for you. Keep it here. Keep it Family TV and Family Radio. And thank you so much for tuning in today. You can also text us and give us your views, your comments, and any additional information that you can have that will be helpful to the next person, especially during this time of the COVID-19 pandemic. You're so much welcome to share your views using the WhatsApp number and the SMS platform, and even on Facebook. Well, today is Good Friday, and it's not normal in our country. The reason why we are saying this is that this celebration is totally different this year. People are staying indoors. Unlike our culture in Kenya, we would go out. Our Catholic brothers and sisters would do the processions, you know, moving from one place to another, marking the way of the cross. Other Christians would just come together to pray and celebrate the Last Supper, the Last Supper of Jesus and his disciples. But this year, it's different. We are celebrating this day in our homes. Most of the people are staying home. And you remember yesterday, the health CS and also the Deputy President William Ruto came out to ask Kenyans to stay indoors with an aim of curbing the spread of COVID-19. And it's not only happening in Kenya. Across the world, people are not celebrating this Easter as the same as we used to do earlier. But in Kenya, we have had services and masses being transmissioned online. We've had Pope Francis doing an online service, and we've also seen churches in Kenya that are doing online services today, which is a good move. But also we've had some local leaders, and especially our political leaders, sending wishes and encouragement messages to Kenyans from their homes. This is what some of them had to say.
The usual celebration that has traditionally gone with Easter is not possible this time. Instead, this year's Easter is a season of quiet prayer, reflection, and meditation. We are isolated in individual spaces without the normal worship, celebration, and fellowships with our families and friends. So far, the government has given us useful guidelines which, if followed, should minimize the risk.
Though we are going to celebrate this Easter weekend differently, we must remind ourselves that Jesus was persecuted, betrayed, crucified, and that he ultimately died and was crucified and was buried. But he triumphed over death. His resurrection is the reason for our hope of eternal life. I call on the Christian community to lift up our nation in prayer this Easter period. And I equally ask Kenyans of all faiths to commend our nation to God's unfailing mercy and grace for us to overcome this daunting pandemic.
This is a nation under God, and that cannot be in vain. And beyond science, there is also God. This is a time to reflect, all of us, to do some self-reflection, introspection, and so that people can get right with their Maker. May God bless all of us, and may God bless
And indeed,
Kenya.
may God bless all of us, and we'll retaliate what the Deputy President William Ruto said. It is a time to lift up our nation in prayer. Christians and all denominations should actually just come together and pray for our country, intercede for our country even during this time. His love changes everything, which is indeed the very truth, and especially this time that he has shown so much love to us as Christians and the whole world, then his love will surely change everything. Frederick, you're tuned in from Kisumu and you're saying happy Friday to you too. This COVID has chosen a wrong season. It has taken us back when Jesus and his disciples had the Last Supper in the house. I believe something great is happening already, 100%. God is working behind the scene. Thank you so much, my friend from Kisumu, for tuning in today. We also have Alice from Machakos, and Alice is saying, hello and happy Easter. The holiday was called Passover and Jerusalem was the happening place. Now it's called Easter, one's heart being at the happening place. Amazingly, COVID is going to pass over and will receive a new normal. Let's pray and faith it until we make it. Proverbs chapter 18 verse 10, the name of the Lord is a strong tower, the righteous run to it and they are safe. Thank you so much, Alice, tuned in from Machakos, for tuning in today. We also have Julia kutoka Kitengela, and saying, I am grateful to the Lord that we already have more than 20 people out of the hospitals and out of the scary quarantine facilities. We pray that more people are going to move out of these places and we shall glorify the Lord. Thank you so much for tuning in today, Julia. Na usalimie sana watu wa Kitengela. And right now, Kenya, our country, has joined the few number of countries that are able to do mass testing for coronavirus, the scientifically known as COVID-19 virus. Now, this is after Kenya Medical Research Institute, as we would like to call it, KEMRI, came out and discovered a methodology that can be used and was previously used to test HIV, AIDS, and tuberculosis. Now, that methodology can also be used to test and mass test for COVID-19 virus. This is what the representatives from KEMRI had to say.
For coronavirus, these machines did not require to be changed in any way at all. The only thing that required to be changed was the reagents to be modified to be suitable for coronavirus. And in fact, the modification is not all the reagents inside, all the ingredients or components inside a reagent. No, just a few parts, components of a reagent are required to be modified. These companies already did it because they knew that coronavirus is going to come to us, and then they began shipping. If they come tomorrow, samples will begin to be tested immediately. And I can tell you, from the samples that Kenyans have been collecting, or the health sector has been collecting every day, 600 samples, those are not sufficient samples to satisfy a machine like this one. They put the sample inside here and transfer it from the primary tube, the tube that it came with, to the secondary tube, the tube that is appropriate for the machine. When they transfer to the tube, then they label the tube, and then they'll put the tube in the machine, and that will be the end of the matter.
These are some of the samples. These are HIV samples. We are testing them for viral load. We have around 400 microliters here. These samples, we load them to a sample tray here, this way. Upon loading them, I will have to scan the sample to assign. I will have to scan the samples for the machine to be able to run. This way, the samples are supplied for the equipment to be able to test. So I load this sample tray in here, and the equipment will be able to push them in and taken for pipetting before extraction begins.
There are no labs in Europe capable of testing thousands of coronavirus tests in a day. None. Because they did not invest in this kind of infrastructure. And the reason they didn't invest in this kind of infrastructure is that HIV was not such a big problem for them. So they have other ways of testing for coronavirus, conventional PCR, and then they have very many centers where they can test. That's why you can see they can test large numbers. But in terms of one lab doing thousands using automated systems, none.
Well, this is good news. Can you imagine the number of cases that can be tested? And they're saying up to 35,000 cases can be tested at a go with the use of this machine. Then this is good news, and especially for our country. It just reminded me of a time when this case was first reported in our country, and we had to send our samples all the way to South Africa for testing and wait for days before the results would be back. Now we can even do it ourselves, and we are among the few countries that can do mass testing of COVID-19. That is good news. And talking of good news, I remember the Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe called out on young people, the youth in our country, to help fighting COVID-19. He said It is in our hands. We can do it in different ways. And that has bore fruit actually. Because right now we have young people, young innovative people coming out with their ideas, with their technological ideas to help with the fight of COVID-19. I am talking about a group of 3 young people from the Jomo Kenyatta University, JKUAT, and they are saying they have developed an application to track down the contact persons of someone who has tested positive, and all they need is an ID number. This is how they do it.
We have a software that can help in containment of the coronavirus. So basically what it does, you take the ID of a person, something which is done involuntarily in most organizations currently. So by taking the ID number, we are able to know you visited a certain place. For tracing the people, mainly occurs when a person has been confirmed. With the information we provide, which is we are going to provide to our government, they are able now to use the ID and the places he has visited to know how the person or who the person he or she was interacting with when the virus had not yet shown its signs. So the person who is entering the information, we know that this person is at Kenyatta National Hospital.
What we have done is automation of that system. The triage system in all the public hospitals is manual because they're using questionnaires. But in this case, we've provided them with a digital solution, and this data is being relayed to a central place and being analyzed. We are capturing things like age. At the dashboard, experts will be able to see which age is most being affected by the disease, and we'll also be able to see which comorbidities are most at risk, and that will be very useful in the disease management. When this information is keyed into the app using its artificial intelligence algorithm, it's able to tell if this particular person is a person for normal patient management. The app can also show that a person needs to be quarantined for further evaluation. The app can also give the output that somebody needs to be admitted immediately because maybe the questions that they have answered correlate very much with the symptoms of coronavirus.
We have designed the application to be very light to use so that it cannot fill your phone. The application actually is very secure. The ID number collected are stored online on Google servers. They cannot be interfered with. We are only 3 operating the system, and no any other third party is in contact with the database.
And indeed, Kenyans are innovative. And he says the application is safe. Right now, they're just waiting for the government to actually step in on that. And they're saying it is safe for the ID numbers because only 3 people have access to where they are being stored, the server where it is being stored. And that is good news just in case the government decides to step in on these. We have Zura tuning in from Busia together with Whitney, Rita, Hawa, and you are enjoying the show. Thank you so much. You're such a blessing. You are a blessing too. Asante sana for tuning in today, and I hope mko salama and you're keeping safe. We have your name is Waidera. Waidera, you're tuning in from Mombasa, and you're saying, hello, Sarah. I like the idea of those young men from JKUAT. That was my former school. Yes. And you're saying, I hope the government will step in on this because it takes a longer time to trace the contact persons of these affected people. If this could help, then it's something that the government should surely look into. Asante sana Waidera for your message and for tuning in today. We just hope and pray that the government will look into these innovative applications that are coming up right now, courtesy of the young people in our country to help fight the pandemic. In the meantime, we have been talking about the issue of landlords. Others are waiving the rent. Others are cutting it into half. Others are not doing anything at this time. Others are throwing people out of their houses, unfortunately. But there is one landlord in Juja that decided he is not going to waive the rent. He is not going to throw those who have not paid rent yet. He's not going to throw them out. He's going to remove their doors, cut electricity and water supply in the apartment. And that way they will be forced out of the houses. His name is Francis Kamau, in a place known as Waitedhi, all the way in Juja, Kiambu County. And that is what he did since Monday. And from Monday night up to date, the people of that apartment have been living without doors, without electricity, and without water. And here is their story.
Venye alikata mlango, akaenda akakata stima. So alikuwa anataka tukae in total darkness. Sasa niambie umekatiwa mlango, stima hauna na ni usiku. Sio hiyo sasa anahatarisha maisha yako. Na sisi tulikuwa tumekataa kulipa nyumba. Nyumba tulimwambia tutalipa. Sasa anatukatia mlango, hajakuambia kitu yoyote. Wewe unarudi kazi, amekata mlango.
Nikuja Monday kutoka kufua manguo kwenye naenda kufua, nikakuta mlango wangu imefungwa masaa saa 8 hivi. Nikakuta amevuja mlango. Amekata mlango, hakuna mlango. Sasa nikashindwa hii ni maisha gani tunakaa? Juu hakutugojea tuongee ndio tujue venye tutalipa nyumba. Sasa yeye alikuja akakata mlango na akaenda. Sasa hatujui venye anataka ama ni tuende ama ni aje. Juu hakuna kitu aliongea na mtu.
Well, according to the government, this is actually against the tenant agreement, which states that a landlord should give a notice of up to 90 days before any action is taken upon the tenant, despite the fact that they might be having agreements of different understanding. This one is literally against the government. And also, this is a building that had 17 single rooms. Each room was paying a rent of 3,000 Kenya shillings. And up to now, 7 of these doors were removed by the landlord himself. But that aside, we also have some good landlords who decided to reduce the prices of their rents by half, 50%. Listen in.
Tumekaa na wao miaka 5, miaka 6. Nikaona wakati ukame iko tuko na wao. Wakati biashara iko tuko na wao. Sasa nikaamua ya kwamba wacha niwakatie 50% kwa pesa yenye walikuwa wanalipa rent, na nikaona kufanya hivyo ni kama nimeingia kwa mtu kwa nyumba na nimemnunulia chakula wakati huu mgumu.
Sasa hii jambo limeniguza sana upande wa kwangu, kozi nimesaidika sana, hata nilikuwa nashindwa nitatoa rent ya kulipa nyumba wapi.
Well, clearly we have some good landlords who are trying to be considerate even to their tenants during these trying times, and we wish them all the best. We've been talking, and yesterday we talked about the issue of masks, and you might risk being arrested. Well, it has been confirmed. And the government gazetted a hefty penalty of up to a fine of 20,000 Kenya shillings or imprisonment of not exceeding 6 months or both. So you might end up paying 20,000 Kenya shillings and 6-month imprisonment if you decided to disobey the rules and measures that have been put by the government to curb the spread of COVID-19. What are some of these rules that will attract such penalties? We have the use of masks. People have been avoiding, and we had people complain that, you know what, because of the breath and the bad smell that is emitted by the use of masks, some just decide not to use it. But right now it is mandatory. It is a must. And if you are arrested not wearing a mask in any public place, in any public vehicle, and even in your private vehicle, you might just be forced to wear a mask. 20,000 Kenya shillings or up to 6-month imprisonment. That is what is going to wait for you if you do not have a mask on in any of these places. Social distancing. And also for the organization, the business operators, the barbers, the salons, and even those operating in the marketplaces and all that. It was gazetted and signed off by the Ministry of Health, the CS Mutahi Kagwe himself, pointing out that they must be having a hand washing station outside their premises, in the entrance of each and every premises. And if not a hand washing station, then sanitizers that have been certified by KEBS, and the quality is good. Just be on the lookout not to be found on the wrong side of this, because 20,000 Kenya shillings at these trying times of our economy, I can guarantee you it's not easy money to remove from your pocket. So just be careful. 2, make sure that you observe the rules that are put out by the Ministry of Health and also of Environment, because of the disposing of the masks. We are live on Family TV, also live on Family Radio, where the music does the talking. Thank you so much for making time for This Is the Day with me, Sarah Otieno. We have people texting in. Your name is, you did not tell me your name, but you're tuned in from Nakuru. Asante sana for tuning in today. Remy Kipchirchir, how are you doing? And you're saying, indeed it is a good evening, Sarah Otieno. Tuned in for to This Is the Day. It's really a law right now, and it was gazetted by Parliament that having a mask is now a rule. I would like to commend the youth for coming up with such an initiative to detect the coronavirus pandemic. I am glad to have tuned into This Is the Day once again. It's really a different season and different Easter weekend for sure this year. Thanks for always keeping us informed on what is happening in our nation and the daily soundbites from our political leaders and what we are doing. Thank you so much. And he's pointing out something, and we talked about the issue of masks and supermarkets, and Remy is saying, by the way, I was in one of the supermarkets. It was a requirement for me to have a mask on. It is real, people, and if you are reluctant to get a mask, then maybe this time, then you should be on the lookout so very much to have one for yourself. My name is Mercy. I am tuned in from Nakuru. Thank you so much for the show. I avoid other media houses, but you break it down so well that helps me understand and puts out clearly my role as a Christian when it comes to this pandemic. Asante sana, Mercy, and please remember that we are staying and putting and standing in the gap for our country and praying for our country even during this time of the pandemic. And I wish you all the best, and we wish everyone else who is listening in all the very best. For now, let's go to Peru. It's Peru. Now, this is a South African. She found herself in Peru when the travel were restricted and there was a lockdown in that area. Her name is Shepi, if you like to call it. She is a South African. And during this time, when travel restrictions were lifted in Peru, were actually imposed in Peru, she was in that area and they were forced to stay put. Now, her cry and problem comes in when they are also supposed to pay for their staying. All the times they use the facilities, even the hotels, buying food in that country, they have to pay for all these services. And she says something. Most people wouldn't mind being told to stay put, but we are staying put. But if, only if, we are staying put for free. In this case, it is not the same. She has to pay for all the services that she is being provided for, and it is becoming tough for her to even find her way back to South Africa. Listen in.
On the 15th of March, the president announced a state of emergency and closed all the borders, and everyone pretty much had about 24 hours to leave, but you could also only leave if you had an official flight booked for the 16th. Everyone's spirits are fairly good as long as there's hope that we could get out. I think most people wouldn't mind being told to stay put if we were staying put for free, but we have to all pay for our own accommodation here, and we can't stay put indefinitely while we still got bills back home and these costs here that we didn't budget for. And I think that's what causes some frustration. There's apparently a plane that's going to come to Sao Paulo next week. So our plan, along with the 30-odd other South Africans we found, is to try to, all of us from our different parts of Peru, that's what most of our days are spent doing now, is trying to figure out a plan on how to get out.
Well, it is a tough time, and just imagine finding yourself in a foreign country at this time and you're trying to get your way back home, and it comes with a lot of challenges. It is a desperate time, and especially for that lady and other South Africans who are in Peru and they're just hoping to get home safe and sound. There is another issue in India. Now, India is the country with amongst the highest population, and let us look at the population of India right now. It stands at 1,376,937,200. That is the population of India as per today, the latest data that was given by the United Nations as per today, and the numbers are increasing daily in India. And India's population is equivalent to about 17.7% of the world's population, the whole world. That is a big percentage from one country. Now look at it this way. India also has to fight COVID-19, coronavirus. The issue of wearing masks. There is also the issue of social distancing, which has been put so much into consideration by the government of India. So how are they doing this when they have such a high population? Those people have reached a state where they're so much desperate and making sure that you have to stay a meter or a meter and a half from the other person. Of course, with the government being there to enforce all this, they have now reached limits of finding makeshift houses on top of trees for them to ensure the social distance rule is observed in their country. Listen up to this.
A lockdown is in order to create physical distance between people. But here a lockdown has the opposite effect. So you have India, which is almost like all of Europe, with people from the poorest states working in other states. And suddenly when this lockdown was announced, landlords basically told workers that they either have to pay their rents or leave, and they just had to start moving, and there was no transport. The borders were just teeming with hundreds of people. Say you had announced something like Section 144, which is a section that disallows the gathering of people in more than 5 people, So you'd actually get social distancing by using the physical space available instead of compressing people into slums or into buses or sending them home to the elderly where they might be spreading the disease even more. It will be disastrous because more people will die of hunger and other diseases, and COVID itself preys on people who are weakened by this. The only thing we can hope is that the summer sun in some way will help us. But I just feel that that the poor are being compressed, whereas they should be actually allowed to use the spaces that are available to distance themselves in a logical and humane way.
Well, even as they are trying to make sure that they maintain social distance, we still have people who are being chased away from their houses back to the rural areas where we have the elderly. And because of this, they are forced to go to extreme measures. So as we pray, also remember the people of India and how they are coping with the COVID-19 cases. Your name is Agre, aka Mdush, and you're tuned in from Kasarani, enjoying the evening, and you're feeling blessed listening to you guys. I love family media. Say hi to Elizabeth, David, my mom and dad and siblings. Be blessed and be blessed too. Asante sana for tuning in today. We also have Martha. Hello Martha, you're saying I am watching from Nakuru. Asante sana for the kind message that you have sent in, and I am grateful that you tuned in today. We have Africans in China. We have Kenyans in China, and when this pandemic was first reported, a lot of Kenyan students, a lot of Africans were just begging literally that they will be brought back home. Some of them found their way back home, others did not. And right now they are facing a tough time. Since the new cases of COVID-19 were reported in China, blacks and Africans that found themselves still in China have been having a rough time, to an extent of even being chased out of their houses, their apartments, being denied services, and even entry into some of the social places that they used to visit before. Right now, it is tough for Africans living in Guangzhou and Beijing cities, and they are saying, according to the Chinese authorities, the rising cases and the new cases of COVID-19 are imported, what we call being brought in by the foreigners, and they are blaming Africans for the new cases. They are complaining, and this is why.
They are just not away. They don't even allow us to. They don't even allow us. We are just walking on the road. You see, they cannot give us house. They cannot provide a place we can stay. They are just following us. You see, they are just following us. They don't want us to stay one place. After we have spent 15 days in the hotel, after quarantine also for 15 days, they cannot allow us to stay one place. They didn't give us any hotel.
Oh, give me all the Nigerian passport.
Individual here.
How many? I have 3 here.
Yes, 3.
Well, clearly that is discrimination. Just because of their color, right now they're being accused of causing the new cases of COVID-19. And when they go to the authorities, even their documentation is being taken from them, and they are complaining that they are receiving no help. What do we do now? This is why we call on our government to protect our brothers and sisters and just protect them from this humiliation that is coming with the COVID-19 pandemic. And talking of discrimination, we have also seen that with the Director General of the World Health Organization, Tedros Ghebreyesus, and he says he has been receiving threats for more than 2 months and now heading to 3 months, even threats on his life, personal threats of how he is leading the WHO, and others are even accusing him of not being able to manage the pandemic of COVID-19 that is being experienced in the world right now. This is after he was answering a question from one of the presses, and a journalist actually asked him of what he thinks about the remarks that were given by the US President Donald Trump a couple of days ago about his leadership and how he is managing the COVID-19 pandemic. And he says since then he has been having a very tough time dealing with personal threats, and that is what is causing him and the organization some challenges when it comes to dealing with the pandemic. Listening to what he had to say.
I can tell you personal attacks that has been going on for more than 2-3 months. Abuses, or racist comments, giving me names, black or negro. I'm proud of being black or proud of being negro, because that negro is black, black is black, and I'm proud. I don't care, to be honest. And thank you for asking that question. Maybe for the first time I would make this public. Even death threat, I don't give a damn, because it's personally targeted to me. 3 months in the same situation. What makes me sad is, I said it last last presser, when the whole black community was insulted, when Africa was insulted, then I don't tolerate. Then I say people are crossing the line. When it's personal, even death threats, I didn't care. I didn't even respond. When, as community, people start to insult us, that's enough. That's enough. We cannot tolerate that.
Well, during this time, I just hope that we would give the leaders a peaceful time to help us fight this pandemic, because if we accept it or not, we need them to survive and make sure that this pandemic is over, so that we can see the next Easter and even the next year and even the next couple of months. Lynette, thank you so much for tuning in today, and happy Easter to you. As you pray this evening, please remember the people of India, specifically those in India today and those in China, the Africans in China who are being treated badly, mistreated just because of their color. That's what we are praying for today.